Welcome to part 2 of the Day of the Dead Girl video. If you haven't already, check out part 1, which gets you up to this stage. So now we are adding in the rose. You can see I've just got a reference image which I've printed out to scale. I've chalked the back of it, much the same as what we did with the Day of the Dead Girl with her actual face. There you have it. I've got the chalk outline there, and I've actually sprayed around that paper mask, which has already given me sort of the defined outside area. So now that that rose is there, I'm just going to finish off the hair with that previous tone that we mixed up in the last video. And now it's time to actually render the rose. So starting with the true white, the Trident true white. Now remember, like I said in the last video, this artwork's created totally using primary colors and the primary set which is available from Trident. So it's a great set. Comes with the 5 colors, obviously. So yellow, red, blue, black, white, as well as a reducer concentrate and 4 empty mixing bottles. So really handy. So there's more info on that towards the end of this video. But basically now with the white, I'm just shaping each petal of that rose. Again, similar to all my other videos and the way I build my white, I'm getting a bit of a foundation there, but I'm kind of still creating the artwork just using the white so that I can still see where I want to go with it. I'm not losing all of my detail. So just building that white so that we've got a nice foundation for that red to sit on top of, because the red is transparent, the same as the blue and the yellow. We need to have a white base so that can really pop. So again, this white's mixed with the Trident reducer to thin it out. I do like to run all my paints a lot thinner. Find a bit of less tip drying, and just performance is overall a lot better. So you can see here I'm just coating that with the Trident True Red. Just building up the tone. So you can see there it's allowed the darker areas to still show through, so I know where I'm going to go with my darker shadows. I just added some blue to my red mix to create a violet, and that's what I'm going to use now to shape and darken off my darker areas within the rose artwork. So just up nice and close to pick out the sharpness so that you don't get any overspray on the petals, and then blend out from there so that you really build the shape and get that 3D effect. So take your time and just gradually build this artwork. So you can see now it's starting to become a bit more three-dimensional. So just blending my tones. Again, if you're not confident with going this dark that quickly, you can mix up some different tones and gradually build it. So you can see now we've added some detailing to that rose and it looks a lot more three-dimensional. Now going back to the red, using my Iwata CMSB micron airbrush with the side cut. I like this airbrush for real fine detail work. But yeah, I just happen to have the red in there, and it's a thinned out red, so quite a bit of reducer. You can also do this with the transparent base, but for this particular video, because the transparent base doesn't come in the primary set, I decided to do this particular step using the reducer, which works just fine. So lots of reducer and 1 or 2 drops of red, just to give you that real transparent red that's not as strong and powerful, and then that allows you to give you that blush effect. So you can see now I'm just adding white. As I mentioned in a few of the other videos, I like to do this step before the last tone, because you always do get a fraction of overspray, so the last tone will then go back over that and clean it up nicely. So it's just something that I do. And I'm also, with this particular artwork, we are going to be putting white on the face because we want that sort of heavy makeup look of the Day of the Dead girl. So I'm just working in the eyes, and I'm also building some texture underneath the eye and above it. You can see there's some highlights on the nose, and now I'm starting to spray some on the face, work in the lip area, so nice bright tight dagger strokes, really fine in those areas. Bit hard to see because the camera's panning out, but you'll see that later on. And now I'm dusting over. So even though you can see it is overspraying on what we've done, that's fine. The dark colour, the next colour that we're going to do, which will be your final tone, is going to go over that and opaque it. So you can see now just building up more texture under the eye there to make it look like that real heavy makeup. Picking out all the details. You can see where before I picked out the bright white highlight in the eyes, and even the real wet spots underneath the eye there. Dusting on the forehead, and then just gradually brightening off where I need to. So this is what really starts to add the realism into the painting. So just again getting some more of that white over the face. You notice I'm not doing it on the neck area as such. I don't want heavy makeup in that area. I want it to stop at her chin. So the ear and her neck will pretty much remain with just a basic highlight on them, but it won't be that sort of solid toning as I've done over the face. So I don't want it to appear like there's makeup all over her ear or her neck. So you can see now just working in that, and I've also done some highlights. So just some dagger strokes in the hair area. Pick out some of those fine stray strands. Dot white highlights on the necklace. And then same thing on the back of or on the ponytail there. And now I've switched to a darker tone. So the previous tone that we had, all I've done is I've added a few more drops of blue and a few more drops of black until I was happy how dark it was. So it's almost a black color, but it's not completely black, so it's not as stark. So it's extremely rare that I will ever use straight black. I'll always either tint it with a bit of brown or blue, or just to take the edge off it. But this one's, you know, a couple of tones lighter than the black. So just picked out that necklace now, cutting in around the ear to pop all that out. Just be careful now with your overspray. So wherever it's sharp, you want to be up nice and close. If you need to, use freehand templates to help you. So this is the tone that obviously will knock everything back and create shadows. So anything that's that you want to pop forward, you would dust the surrounding areas. and that will then lift up. So you can see where the chin, what I was doing there, it just popped up that chin. So now we're going to work in the eye. You can see I'm not just coating the whole thing. So I'm doing the pupil, and then, yeah, just sort of working around that, the eyelashes. So be careful not to overdo it. You can see here I've switched back to my custom CM water micron. So you can still do all this detail, although I was using the SB prior, you can still use the custom CM, which is a 0.23 needle, and it will still allow you to do all this detail, even with a water-based product, which is the Trident that we're using. So you can see how well it does flow through a micron. There's no problem with any fine detail. So just building more and more detail around that eye area. So these are the bits that take the time, and you know, you can actually see I've dusted a bit of yellow around the edge of that section just to blend in an extra color. So you can add whatever you like. I mean, you know, if you look at other references or paintings of Day of the Dead Girl artworks, some people have done that red, others have used purple, others do a definite line. I've just chosen to add a bit of yellow, a bit of that sort of gold feel, and just to have that blending off the edge of the makeup pattern. So nice and fine for these areas, and then I'll go in and detail more on the eye, more of the makeup, more texturing, but just very careful not to go too heavy. You can see how, you know, quickly this color tints everything, so you've got to be very, very careful. I'm just adding the dots now. So nice and fine up close. Just giving more depth to this eye area. You can see how much work I'm putting into it. Keep in mind this has been sped up, this video, so it was quite a bit of time working on this area. But like with any sort of portraiture, the eyes are always your focal point, so it is one of the most important things to get, well, it is the most important thing to get right. So spend your time on it and it'll pay off in the end when the painting's complete. And always refer back to your reference too. So now just carrying all that detail back over to the other side. Obviously remember your light sources. So again, you can see the pupil, and then I'll start to outline around it. A few eyelashes in there. But again, everything's gradual. Just come back in and clean it up a bit more, add a bit of a drop shadow there. You can see it's created a gradation. More texturing under the eye, just to really give that makeup appearance. Now just going to work the nostril, be very careful with this, nice and sharp, and then you can see how I did a gradation, so just blended that out. Now I'm going to work on the lips here and the pattern. So for these strokes, they're pretty much like a little mini dagger stroke. So you can see the airbrush constantly moving out of frame. It's because I'm removing a bit of tip drying as well. When you're doing this sort of fine stuff, you do, although it doesn't tip dry as much as a lot of other water-based products, it's still a good idea to constantly pick that off. Like, it's just a regular thing that I'm doing. Mainly in these areas where it is super fine, you do not want to have it spit out on you or clog up at this point in time. So like I tell all my students, it's very important to keep your airbrush super clean. Hence why I strain all my paint. Even brand new paint, doesn't matter, always strain it. Same with urethanes, house of colour, whatever I'm using, I'm always straining my paint. So just run that line there. Take your time with this. Again, do a practice piece to the side of your artwork if you're not confident to hit your artwork straight away, because it is a bit of a one-shot stroke. And when it is this dark, if you do make a mistake, it's pretty much meaning you have to go back and fix it. So that means whiting that section out, bringing your flesh tone back in and starting all over again, which you really don't want to do. So if you are a bit unsure or not super confident, then build your tones, add more tones to this project. So instead of doing it in 3 or 4 tones, maybe do it in 8 to 10 tones and just gradually build it, because as you go on and you get darker, you've already been practicing with all your other tones. So just building more and more shadows, more shapes into it, adding that nose marking in again. And that particular one has opaqued over the white, which is fine. We'll just go back over that as well at the end. So certain white highlights I will go back and tone out a bit more. So now using a freehand template, this is actually a Michael Valley template by Art Tool, second degree burn template series that he has, predominantly for true fire, but the curves work quite well for all different applications. So I just use that for the nose, just to pop that up and give me a clean edge. So wherever you need to use it, make sure you do use a freehand template. Don't go and mask your whole project, but if you do want a completely sharp edge, nothing else will get you that. So I'm just toning more and more, but you can see again I'm doing it gradually. If I have to, I'll go back over a section. Now I'll flip my artwork to the side again so that it makes it easier again to do this cobweb design and these lines. So pretty much paint on, paint off as you're doing these. So air on all the time, and then as you start your stroke, pull back on your trigger and keep moving with it. Don't stop, otherwise your paint will start to build in one area and could possibly drip, which you don't want. So to get that nice clean line, you need to keep your height the same, your distance the same, and your speed relatively. Well, you got to just keep moving with it. And then I'm just adding these little teardrop shapes at the end. And then I'll just join the webbing lines like that. If you're not confident with an airbrush, I mean, you could create a template for it, or you could use a paintbrush as well to get a more definite line, and it's a bit easier to do. So there's ways of dusting over that and sort of working it in so it looks a bit like it's not just paintbrush straight on the painting. You've got to just blend it out, make it look like it's deliberate and meant to be a part of it. So you can see it's starting to really shape up now. So that glares a bit, it's making it a bit hard to see in the video all the detailing that's been pulled out, but I hope you can make sense of what's going on. So just a bit darker there on the lip, top of the lip. And now just cutting in around that rose. Again, if you're not confident doing it freehand, get your original, that paper mask that I had, and that can act as a nice positive template now. Or even some, you know, just transparent masking will work, some stretch mask or spray mask from your sign shop. Stick that on, carefully cut it out with your X-Acto knife, and then there's your positive template. So you can see we've got a bit of a glare issue there, but you can see how I'm darkening off the hair, putting the dagger strokes in, and flicking them back into the areas of the white there, the highlighted areas. So now I'm using that same template as before, or one of the other ones in the kit, just to get that forehead, that shadow there to pop right out. Just adding some more little stray hairs there, and finishing off the rest of the hair with that darker tone. Again, not just coating over the white areas, just blending that hair back in using the dagger strokes. And just getting tone on the rest of the hair area, even underneath where that rose is. Bit on the ponytail. Then we're going to switch to white. So using white now, just on the beads here of the necklace, just put a dot white highlight, and then again work in some strands of the hair. A few highlights on the top of the bridge of that nose. Dot white highlights at the teardrop ends of those cobweb designs, spiderweb designs. A few highlights there underneath the eye area, and dot white highlights on the lips. So just picking out the white stray strands just to give it a bit more realism, and we can come back in with a darker tone again to neaten any up that we're not happy with. So just doing that now, using that darker tone just to pick it out and clean up any of those areas. A bit hard to see, but you can see now, just blending that back in. Apologies for the camera and the lighting, but hopefully you can make out enough. You can see the detailing here. So again, we're still leaving what we've done prior. You don't want to just coat everything flat. Just dusting over some of those areas. And now we're going to unmask the artwork so that we can expose the background. And that way we can have a good look at the artwork and make sure that we're happy with everything. So I've decided to add some petals that are coming off the rose. And then we're going to put like a bit of a smoke flame in there as well. So just sketching these on freehand, just randomly, so that they form a bit of a pattern tapering off. And then with the X-Acto knife, carefully cut them out to create your template. So just cut everyone individually and pick them out carefully. Make sure you don't cut too deep, and when you pick them out, be careful not to scratch the panel. So take your time. You can throw these pieces away, we don't need to mask them off as a positive again. So then tape off with the application tape the surrounding area, because overspray does travel, and the last thing we want now is to get any overspray on the completed artwork. And just using the white, just coat these areas. So you can see I've done 3 or 4 coats, gradually building it. If any bits lift up like that, just press down. And now using the red, do the same, coat it a few times to get it nice and bright, keeping the air on all the time so it's drying the coats in between. So just get that nice and bright. Take your time. If you need to speed things up, get a heat gun. But it does dry pretty quickly anyway. Now we're just going to add a few highlights to it, and then some shading. And remove your mask. And as you can see, we're left with a few areas there it did bleed underneath, so I'm just using that last final tone. You can see on the board it's a little bit browny black, but it's not going to matter, because while I've got that, I'm just going to go over the edge so it gets rid of that real harsh edge. And now using the white, I'm running that real smoke flame effect. So that's going to opaque over those browny black shaded areas that I was touching up earlier. So this is all just made up. Just trying to get a bit of flow with it, something interesting for the design. So just building up that smoke flame. No real rules to it. You can use a freehand template if you like. But again, just building up the coats. Dusting it over in the areas that need it. Now I've just switched back to the darker tone, and I'm just going to dust over that as well, just to give it a bit more depth. So fairly simple effect to achieve, but looks really cool. There you have it. So you can see how it's coming straight out of that rose. And now with that darker tone, I'm just doing, you can see I've added some, when I had the white for the smoke flame type effect, I did some gradual white highlights on the petals. And now I'm just cutting in with that darker tone to finish off the rose. Now I've just got a one of the Gerald Mendez templates by Art Tool, texture effects template, and I'm just going to run a bit of a texture border. The reason being, if I don't do this, once I unmask it, that masking tape's not going to do anything really, so that way this will give me a nice border and finish off the artwork, the whole look of it. Bit of a grungy sort of look. So I'm just using white. And then unmask it, and you can see how that's now left a really cool framed border. So I hope you enjoyed the video and you like the finished artwork. The artwork got cleared with a flat clear, so a flat 2-pack clear. And this particular artwork was developed for the packaging of the primary set by Trident water-based airbrush colours. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time.